Welcome to Nerd on Nerd with me, Jack Kempster.
And me, Liam Underwood. In this episode, we'll be catching up with Jack and Liam. There'll be a little bit of nerd news, and there'll be some culture swap, in which we'll be discussing the first 3 episodes of Making a Murderer, currently available on Netflix.
How exciting.
I'm excited, Jack, but first it's time for my favourite section, catching up with Jack and Liam. So how are you, Jack?
I'm pretty good, mate. How are you?
Oh, I'm just dandy, thank you very much. I finally have a working shower again.
Yeah, they came around and fixed it?
Yeah, so to give you a little shower update from the last episode, to those devoted listeners out there, we appreciate you and we love you. They came, they fixed the shower eventually. I did have to spend a week showering at the gym where old men were looking at my penis on a regular basis.
A little bit like a homeless gentleman, really.
Yeah, to some extent, I guess. So that was a thing that I had to deal with, but I mean, I've got nothing to be ashamed of. So I think if anything, they were kind of like eyeing it up with, I don't want to say jealousy, but maybe envy.
Yeah?
Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't like to, try and imagine the things that they were thinking.
Well, did you try and catch a glimpse of any of them?
Oh no, that's not something that I felt like I needed to see.
Fair enough.
I mean, we had no Zac Efrons in the gym, so why would I try and catch a peek? I have a point. So yeah, they came, they fixed it. Now, you can't see this, but I'm using sort of air quotations over fixed it, because
Oh god, really?
when I then had a shower, the drain was blocked or something. So I've got one of those like stand-in showers, right? It's not like a bath or anything, it's like a walk-in shower.
Yeah.
And the water just kind of kept rising up to about my ankles, and the shower unit itself isn't the I don't know, the most, what's the word?
Watertight?
Yeah, good word. The shower unit itself isn't the most watertight of things, so the water was finding its way out and pretty much flooding my bathroom. So I had to get them back to unplug it, and I had a little moment of crisis when they were here, when I realised that before having the shower, I'd done a little bit of manscaping. Now, I don't know if you're a manscaper, Jack.
Not massively.
No, you see, I've never really seen you in a state of undress, so it's hard to tell, but I'm a pretty hairy guy, especially when you get to, like, the downstairs area. Like, the taint is out of control. It really is. The pubic bush area, I've got more of a kind of handle on, should we say. I still don't like to get too close to the shaft or the balls or anything, because I have had instances in the past where I've maybe got a bit too carried away and like nicked, and I'm going to be honest, that's one of the worst feelings you could ever have.
You're the only person I know that has done this, or that has openly told everyone they've done it, I guess.
I think more people have done it, they just, they're a bit embarrassed about it for some reason.
What are you shaving with?
So to get through
like a straight edge razor?
To get through the thicket, shall we say, I use my little beard trimmer.
Yep.
That sort of gets most of it down, but I try and keep that away from shaft and balls. And when it gets to that, so when I had the nick in the past, it was from using that around the balls area.
Yeah, well, that just seems like a bad idea.
Oh, it was horrible. It really hurt. It bled. It was awful. So now, when it comes to that area, I use like a little pair of like nail scissors.
Yep, that makes sense.
But it just takes a fucking age.
Just use normal scissors.
Even that, that's a big blade to have wielding around such a delicate area.
I use normal scissors.
Yeah, the nail scissors I feel like I have more control over.
How are you using scissors? I think you're using scissors wrong if you're worried that you might slice your penis open.
It's more the testicles I'm worried about. The penis I can move out of the way. The testicles, it's just a free-for-all once you get to that.
How I can't believe I'm asking this question, but how short are you going?
Probably about 1 inch to half an inch.
Yeah, alright, that's pretty similar to the length I aim for.
Yeah, if I could go shorter I would, but I just don't trust myself. But it's a weird shape to try and keep that consistently around. Well, like
what's a weird shape then?
The ball bag.
Your ball bag, or just the ball bag in general?
I think specifically mine.
What shape is it?
Well, it's like a sack, right?
Yeah.
With like a basketball in, but then also
Sorry, what?
So okay, just imagine like a sack, right?
Yeah.
Then imagine like a basketball in it.
Yeah.
And then imagine like not a tennis ball, but a bit bigger.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. So
That inconsistent in size?
yeah. There's a big droopy one, and then there's a little like tucked up one. Well, not tucked up. It's like it's descended, but not quite. They're not even, should we say?
No, they're not. Everyone's uneven to some extent, but that sounds like...
Oh, there's probably like a good half an inch in it.
That's crazy to me.
I know.
I mean, that might be normal, is the scary thing. Because then I'm the weird one.
I don't think it is, because like obviously when you see pictures and stuff that people have drawn of testicles, they tend to be quite even. I don't know if that's like the way to judge if it's normal or not.
No, that is. I always compare mine to crude drawings of penises.
By teenage boys in math class. Anyway, getting back to the point, so I'd done my manscaping. I'd obviously washed it all the way, then I'd had my shower, and it was blocked, but I hadn't quite made that connection. So I got the shower guys back to do the unblocking, thinking, oh, maybe when they were fixing the shower, some debris fell into the drain, perhaps. They were professional. They didn't actually say what had caused the blockage, but I was sat in my room just thinking, what if there's just like a big pube ball blocking the drain?
That's it. I think the mistake you made there is calling them first. Like, even if it wasn't your pubes, right? The first thing you should have done is gone to the shops, got some drain unblocker, poured it down there. If that didn't fix it, then you call them in.
Right, but what if, okay, the reason why I was having all these issues was because of something that they had done to fix the shower. I didn't want to pour drain unblocker down and potentially exacerbate the situation. What I should have done is had a shower first, checked that the drain was working, and then done the manscaping.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
But you live and learn.
You did very eagerly go into the...
Well,
like, as soon as your shower
it had been a week.
Trim.
It had been a week. And like I said, the taint particularly just goes out of control, and you need to jump on that pretty quickly, I think.
I just let mine flow free.
I just don't want any complications.
What do you mean complications?
Moving on.
Okay.
So what have you been up to?
I did some D&D on Saturday.
Oh, okay. How did that go?
That went pretty well.
Yeah?
Everyone seemed to enjoy it. I was the dungeon master in real life.
Of course you were. Yeah. And everyone had a good time, yeah?
Everyone had good times. Well, as far as I'm aware.
They all, what's the word? I'm blanking with words today.
You're really struggling, buddy.
Yeah. Not. They all conformed to your, rules, did they?
I still can't believe that you think I'm some sort of dictator when I do dungeon mastering.
I really do.
Why? You're going to be shocked when you eventually join this game, and you're like, Jack, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
So when I'm like, Jack, I'm going to be Carlos the Dwarf, you're going to be like, yeah, that's fine.
No, that's the one thing I won't let you be.
There we go then. So I'm not going to be shocked at all, am I?
No, you will when you're actually playing.
Right,
that's not the playing bit, Liam.
We'll see. Just a little update for our listeners. My D&D session, in case you had, the preamble to that, it didn't go too badly.
Classic Liam, jumping on the back of my point.
Yeah, it didn't go too badly. I was a wizard in the end, so I didn't get to play Carlos the Dwarf, which was a disappointment. I was a wizard called Lionel, and I feel like I got involved. And so, Jack, as a dungeon master, can you maybe just say if this sounds right or not? I think some people, when they approach the game, they try and play it like a game. Like, sometimes you can kind of see the direction that the dungeon master is trying to sort of subtly steer you in, and people just want to play the game and get it done. Other people, and I think personally this is the correct way of playing, try to embody their characters and approach the situations that are presented to them as their characters would, not as this is a game and I just want to get to the end.
Yeah, no, but the issue with what you're saying there is it's a mix of both. Like, because you're saying some people see the way the dungeon master wants something to go, but in general, like, I'm not like I assume you're talking about more like in like a specific moment. Like, if there's an encounter with enemies, you're like, the DM is expecting us to do this, and some people just do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because in general, like, the DM's got, like, the way a DM's meant to do it is they've got, like, a general plan, and they try to nudge you towards...
Exactly,
so, like, they might have written this cool story for there being a dragon in a cave, so they're going to try and nudge you to go to the cave.
Exactly. But
you're saying more finely, like, if there's, like, there's 3 goblins and a strange lever and a bag of rocks above the goblins with a string that goes to the lever.
Well, not only that, let's say the Dungeon Master is trying to nudge you towards this dragon in a cave, but your character is allergic to dragons. Your character isn't really going to be way up for doing that.
No, okay, I get what you're saying there, but if you're just, like, because it sounds more like you're just trying to derail the game.
No,
at that point.
not quite. I would say
Like,
you're
because
trying...
surely you'd have said to a guy who, if someone was going to run a game for you and you wrote a character, surely you'd say to him, my guy's allergic to dragons.
No, I'm not saying you just create these scenarios to derail it. So to give you a bit more context, the wizard that I was playing, I decided he had very few hit points, okay? Mm-hmm. So I decided he's going to be very much into self-preservation, and he's going to be quite cowardly. He's not going to be the sort of person that's going to charge into battle, because he'll probably die. So he approaches all scenarios in a very much, I do not want to have any fighting. If there's any fighting going on, I'd rather get away from that. So obviously in D&D, confrontations and fighting is a large part of it. So role-playing a character that is like, obviously when it happens, he does eventually get involved, but he's not going to be leading the charge, shall we say?
Yeah.
So whereas other players, for example, and this wound me up a little bit. There were 2 children there in this intro to D&D session, probably 8 and 10 years old roughly, and they were there with their dad. Now their dad, I don't think he really wanted to be there, and he was very pandering to the children, being like, well kids, your dad's a ranger. There's some tracks over there. I've got really good tracking. Do you think I should go over and maybe track those tracks? And the kids would be like, yes, Dad, that's a really good idea. Like, that's not role-playing.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by that's just playing the game as a game.
Yeah, I don't like people playing the game as a game.
No, exactly. So that was the only sort of downside to the intro session, but everything else went really well. I had a lot of fun, and I'm hoping to get invited back to do it again at some point.
And if not, Liam, maybe you can join our game.
Well, if I'm allowed, Jack.
You will be, so long as unless you just go, I'm only joining if I get to be Carlos the Dwarf. Then I'll be like, it's cool. I'll find out 2 other people.
No, I mean I can. I'm flexible, you know. I can try
like
to.
Lionel the Mage. I was fine with him. He sounds like a good character.
Okay, well, I don't really want to play as a coward all the time, but
no. I'm just saying. I'm saying so. Like, you can clearly come up with good characters.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The other thing is, obviously, those that heard Carlos's backstory. Suddenly, I no longer could really do that with 2 children present at the table. So I did have to rethink a lot of what I was anticipating from D&D. So, your session, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Do you prefer mastering or playing?
I really want to play. Like when I first started reading into D&D when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was always coming up with characters that I could be and trying to figure that out. But there's one other guy who might have done it, but when we first started, I was the only one around that was willing to DM.
Okay.
Like, I like DMing, and I like coming up with those characters, but I've got a list of characters that I'm like, at some point in my life, I need to get someone else to DM so I can be these people.
Well, we are going to do a little mini session between the 2 of us, aren't we? That we're considering filming.
Yep.
And I'll be Dungeon Master in that.
You will.
So, you excited for that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Once I can get my head around all the rules, I'll be more excited, but at the moment it's quite intimidating.
I mean, so one of the things, because when we did it on Saturday, the first time we did it, we had, the proper, I'd drawn out maps with the proper squares and putting our characters on it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't had enough time on Saturday to do one of the maps properly, so I printed off one that ended up being too small.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I was like, look guys, you can play D&D without having the board. You can as long as you sort of know vaguely where people are and distances.
Yeah.
And that ended up working really well, surprisingly well.
Okay.
So, there's things and that's in the rules, they say you don't have to rely on this, 1-inch squares represent 5 foot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, there's ways around all the falling blocks we might have.
Yeah. I think so. I think we'll be okay. It's less those sort of rules and more just... The thing that always bothers me is the rules pertaining to spells and abilities and that kind of thing.
You just roll a d20, add a specific skill.
No, I get that, but
Boom.
It's when we did our first session a while back, the spells felt very restrictive. Like you could only heal once per game or something, and that just
there are spells
difficult.
that have a limit on them.
Yeah, but something like healing, you'd think would be a little bit more flexible.
No, see, I had to point this out to my team on Saturday. One of them was like, I'm sure I've got a healing spell that I can just use, like an unlimited amount. And I was like, no, you definitely don't, because that wouldn't make sense.
No,
because the whole point is you have to have rests where you can, like,
of course,
recover your... So if you have a spell that just always heals...
Of course. So I definitely think once per encounter makes sense. Once per game is too restrictive. Because a game generally has more than one encounter.
Yeah, no. So, see, they balance it, though. Like, the issue is, we've always played first level.
Yeah.
And if you're at first level, you don't have those cool spells that are once an encounter, I can heal a guy. But then the monsters won't be as difficult either, so you shouldn't have to heal constantly.
Well, we'll see when we play it. How do you think it's going to work with just one player? Do you think it's going to go well?
Oh, it's going to be difficult for you, I think.
Why for me?
Because you're the dungeon master. It's like weird playing with one player.
Yeah, I know. I imagine your character will probably just die very quickly.
Well, that's if you make it poorly, yeah.
I mean, if I try and give you anything more than maybe 2 enemies to defeat at one time, you're probably going to get surrounded.
Yeah, so right, this is what I was thinking, and we tried to have a text conversation about it, but it really falls apart over text, because it's difficult to get across, like, well-reasoned points.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking for the game is, if we start the character at a higher level...
I had another thought.
No, so this is the thing, right? Let me finish this point,
okay.
Right? Because I wanted to be a sorcerer...
Yeah.
And as you rightly pointed out, the moment something hits me, I'm just going to die.
Yeah.
Right? So what we do is we start the character at a higher level, say like 4. Mm-hmm. That means you have more... Because the way, like, making encounters and picking the monsters you're going to do, it works off... You take the party's total level, and that gives you, like, a number of points to spend on monsters in the encounter.
Yeah.
So if I'm a level 1 person, it's going to be some ridiculously low amount. You are going to be literally looking through and going, cool, I can make 1 dog fight you.
Yeah.
And that's like a medium challenge.
Yeah.
So if we start at a higher level, you can throw in more monsters. That means we get more exciting encounters. It also means we can make the character have a couple of levels in, like, being a warrior as well.
Right, can I put forward my suggestion as an alternative?
Yeah.
Obviously, now bearing in mind, this is someone that's very new to the game and has never mastered it before, so I don't really know how it works. But, could you, in theory, have mercenaries that you could hire to come with you?
You could, but then the issue becomes who controls that mercenary.
I will.
But then, see that, then you're just, but then, right, so one of the big issues, and they specifically talk about it in, like, the Dungeon Master's Guide, is letting the DM control effectively a player character.
Okay, so you control it.
They're like, yeah, but then I'm playing 2 characters and I don't want to do that.
Well, you'd be role-playing as one, and then just rolling for the other.
But then we're doing it just for the combat side.
Yeah, so essentially...
I know you said that's a huge part of D&D, but it's not.
If it's a mercenary, right, you could just be like, I'm hiring you to do what I tell you to do, so shut the fuck up and listen.
No, but this is one of the things this is what I don't understand. You think I'm a railroading DM who's like all making everyone do what he wants, but then you're saying so you just hire a mercenary. What if my guy doesn't want to hire a mercenary because he's like, I'm going to save the town?
Then he's probably going to get killed.
But then that's ridiculous. You've planned it for this, so
not
you're railroading.
I've given you options, and it's going to be up to you if you wish to take those options or not.
That's not how it works, Liam. You don't. If you're the DM, you don't make options like that. You don't go, right, I'm going to make this next encounter super hard, so the only way that you can win is if you hire this mercenary.
No, you could roll really well and win as well.
No, see, this is what I'm worried about. I'm worried that we're going to do it, I'm going to die really quickly, you're going to be like, well, you didn't do this, and I'm going to be like, because that's not the point.
No, right, the way I'm thinking of approaching it is essentially giving you a blank slate, but having a lot of plans laid up for what you may or may not do. It could be something that you would overlook that could have helped, but you overlooked it. You could still do it without that, but having that might have made it easier.
The way you're looking at it is the old school Dungeon Master way of doing things, which was a very much like the DM is the enemy.
Yeah, that's how I want to be.
Which is not. That's not how you go into it. That's not what you should be doing. No, that doesn't work.
It will work. I'm going to be the
enemy. Reason it doesn't work is because that way you can just be like, a dragon attacks you.
Well, no, that's unfair.
No, but see, the whole point of it is the idea of D&D is that you sit together with your friends and you make a cool story.
Yeah, but I'm going to be sat with you.
Yeah, and we're going to make an awesome story, or you're going to be like, no, you didn't pick up on my stupid hint that's really obvious. And then I'm like, no, it isn't. And then all our listeners are like, Yeah, no, I didn't see that at all. And you'll be like, well, I explained it.
What I think is more likely is I'll be like, there's a signpost over there that might have good information for you. Be like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to do it all by myself. I'm the best. And then you'll die.
100%. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't say there's a signpost that might have information for you.
Well,
that's not good. That's not good DMing, Liam.
I don't know what good DMing is.
That's all right. I'm going to help you.
I don't think you are. I think you're just going to be very critical.
I will, honestly.
Because the whole reason you've suggested doing this is to try and make a point. So you're going to do whatever you can to ensure that your point is made.
No, I honestly... No, you said this when we originally suggested it, and I promised you, I said, honestly, I won't go in and just try to derail the thing.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Because I want to play D&D and be a character. I don't understand why you think I'd come in and ruin my chance at doing what I want to do.
Because more than that, you want to be right.
I really don't. Not in this case.
Well, we'll see. And hopefully our listeners will see when we do maybe a video as a little special one-off.
Woo! Well, it's maybe going to be a one-off. Maybe we'll do more, Liam.
It depends how well received it is.
Jack tries vegetables. Jack and Liam do some cooking.
Jack and Liam go to Ibiza.
Yep, we have plans.
Oh, trust. Once Nerd on Nerd starts taking off and we get a bit of money behind us, the things we're going to do for you guys. We're going to meet women. We're going to look at them.
Are we?
Yeah, we'll definitely look at them. We'll talk about talking to them. We'll eat food. We'll have new experiences and hopefully stories to tell.
Nerd news?
No. I went to the cinema last week, didn't I?
The cinema.
So it's time for
with your new pass.
Yeah, my new unlimited card. So
Ooh.
Go see the movies for free. Don't mind if I do. Well, yeah. Let's just say it's for free, shall we?
It's a little bit like it's free, except that you do have to pay money.
Yeah, except in my head, it's like it's for free. And
right.
The more I go, the more free it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Liam went to the cinema, and here's his spoiler-free reviews of the films that he saw at the cinema. I saw 999, which is like a heist, corrupt cop, criminal, gangstery type movie.
Yep.
It has 2 really good scenes in it. The issue is it has too many characters, and it tries to get you invested in each of these characters, and it tries to layer them and give them backstories. But it's a 2-hour movie, and I think we're talking about 6 or 7 characters here that it tries to do that for. And there's just literally not enough time in the movie to get invested in all of the different characters that it wants you to be invested in. So,
fair enough.
Essentially, if they'd have maybe cut 2 or 3 characters, this could have been a really tight, really good movie. Instead, it was okay. It wasn't boring or anything. It was just disappointing that it didn't kind of reach its full potential.
Yeah.
So that was 3 out of 5, using my scale, of course. Then, the other movie I saw was called The Finest Hours, which is based on a true story about a rescue when an oil tanker was caught in a storm and basically got split in half.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be very average. It was very average, but in a way where, again, it was never boring, exactly. Like, I don't resent spending the time watching it, but equally, it didn't offer me anything that I wasn't expecting or hadn't really seen before.
Okay.
So that was 2.5 out of 5. A common link between the 2 movies is Casey Affleck was in both. And I quite like the fact that I got to see him in the cinema twice in the space of 2 weeks, because I feel like he's a very underrated actor, and it'd be nice for him to actually get out of the shadow of his bigger brother.
Yeah, fair enough. Nerd news!
What's been happening in the world of nerd?
Do you want to go first, Liam?
Sure, it was the Oscars last night.
Yeah, it was. Whoa, how exciting.
I watched it live, stayed up, regretted it. I didn't realise that it wouldn't finish until 5 a.m.
Yeah, you're insane.
I had work today.
Yeah, you're insane.
It was unpleasant, I'm going to be honest. But the ceremony itself, obviously, as our listeners know, I'm more into my movies than you are. And I know you have a lot of points you want to make about the Oscars and their redundancy and whinge. Sure, we'll get there, don't worry. As a ceremony, as a barometer for what is currently popular, it was interesting. I don't necessarily agree with all of the results, but equally, I haven't seen a lot of what was up in contention. I'm hoping, now that I've got my little unlimited pass, next year's Oscars, I'll be coming from a way more informed standpoint. But, you know, I've seen a handful of the movies that were nominated, or the performances that were nominated, and I definitely had personal opinions of who I would prefer to have won or lost and whatnot. So, before we get into
Yeah.
your whinging about the Oscars, should we just quickly break down what I would consider the important moments of the night? So, Chris Rock, obviously, I don't know, are you aware, Jack, of the controversy surrounding the Oscars this year?
Yes, and I heard that Chris Rock was very open about it.
He was. His opening monologue was really good. He nailed the issue very well. My only...
What did he say?
I honestly can't repeat it. It was very naughty. But my only sort of criticism is it was very much a black and white issue when it was discussed. And I feel like it's not just black people that are being overlooked in the Oscars. It is all people of colour. All minorities do not get given the same opportunities as white people. So it's a shame that they kind of reduced the issue into just black versus white when there's a lot more going on there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'll say is we had a really good opening monologue that tackled it, but then throughout the night, Chris Rock would come back out and do a little bit more, and it would always be about the same issue. And it just got to the point where I was like, look, you've made your point. There has to have been something else going on this year that you can reference. Like, that's not everything that happened in the last year in the world of movies. Was not this
but then
movement.
Isn't that because, so from what I've heard about it, people were saying that the reason he was doing that, or not, I don't know, that's not what people were saying, but like, he was doing that because it meant that there were, like, people in the audience were apparently getting uncomfortable with it, but then that was like the point of it. He wasn't trying to be like, he wasn't doing the, I'm going to make a point and then move on. He was saying, this is wrong.
I know, definitely, but I feel
I'm not here to host your thing and just be
I get what you're saying.
Calm about it.
Yeah, the thing is, he made the point. He made it, people were uncomfortable, he made it, and it was just a shame that there was nothing else that was up for discussion. At times, it genuinely almost felt more like a lecture than a ceremony. And it was disappointing, because Chris Rock is very funny, and I would have liked to have seen, in all honesty, the whole point is the lack of diversity in the Oscars. I would have liked to have seen more diversity in his presentation of the Oscars.
No, that's stupid, Liam.
I'm just saying, that's a personal opinion.
You're equating two things that are totally different.
I'm just saying, as a presenter who can be very funny, it's a shame that
but that's not what the point
horse.
was. He didn't come on there to be funny. He came on there because he wasn't going to boycott it at one point.
No, people asked him to boycott it. But again, this was something that was referenced in his opening monologue. His opening monologue said everything that needed to be said. Just repeating it throughout the night
but then it's
didn't
not,
bring anything new to the table.
No, but you're letting everyone off if you just make that point once, because then everyone goes, oh, that was a bit uncomfortable. Yeah, we did do something wrong, didn't we? And then they carry on and they have a good night. If you go on there to be like, you're not racially diverse enough in this award ceremony, surely because that means the whole thing is wrong in some way, it doesn't stop. Like, I assume the Oscars didn't get to a point where suddenly it all became racially diverse again in that one night.
No,
and they were
of
like,
course, but
thank goodness. So he was making a point, and then the whole thing is still fucked up and wrong. So he's like, here we go.
Right, but basically saying, hey, look, isn't this thing fucked up and wrong? And everyone's like, oh yeah, is it actually, isn't it? Yeah, give me half an hour, I'll be back. He goes away.
No, because
they do some awards, and he comes back, everyone, look at this thing that's fucked up and wrong. Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, because he's not saying it to you, and he's not saying it to, like, the audience, assumedly. He's saying it to the guys that are making it wrong. Like, the people that do the nominations and the people that are voting and stuff.
The people that essentially
the people that are there.
Run it. Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying, but as I keep saying, everything that needed to be said, he covered in his opening monologue.
No, but you're not
there
getting
is
what I'm
nothing
saying,
wrong.
because I'm not saying, right? I'm not saying I think he should have made the point and stopped. I'm saying the opposite to what you're saying. You keep saying that you said yes, it was also at the beginning. I'm saying it shouldn't have just been left at the beginning. I think he did the right thing by carrying on about it.
Here's what you're not understanding. I've heard what you're saying, and I'm saying I disagree with that. In my opinion, they didn't need to keep referencing it throughout the night. There are other things going on in this year in the world of movies that could have been referenced.
Give me an example.
I didn't write his script. Yeah, how about the equal pay thing between women and male actors that Jennifer Lawrence was sort of cheerleading the way for? That could have been referenced.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There are other things that have been happening. So, I'm not saying that one topic is more important than the other topic. I'm just saying we could have had a little bit more diversity in the issues that were being presented on a platform where there was a lot of eyes watching it. So here's what I guess my point is. We've got, let's say in total, Chris Rock had 30 minutes of airtime. Yeah, you could spend 30 minutes of that just harping on about the same point, or you could do 20 minutes, really nail that point, get your point across, and then you've got 10 more minutes where you can start addressing other issues that are contemporary and need that screen time and could maybe benefit from people being made aware of and thinking about.
But then do you not dilute your original point by raising multiple points?
I mean, do you really need to make the same point consistently for 30 minutes? Or could you make that in 20 minutes and then go off into others?
You say that, Liam, but you're saying like, does he need to keep making the point? But for this,
Yeah.
whole Oscars thing, that's been a point, and it wasn't like fixed. They didn't go, oh yeah, shit, we really fucked up this Oscars. Maybe we should sort it, or do something to rectify the situation, or do a speech saying we're going to rectify it.
They have actually announced, like a few weeks back, way before the ceremony, that for next year they are looking into how they can address this issue and ensure that they do not have a repeat. So there are already things put in motion to address this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I completely was 100% behind him making his points and getting it across, but I felt like he did that well enough in his opening monologue that it didn't need to be referred to throughout the night every time he came back on stage. There's just other things that I feel like he could have tackled.
Right. Well, I think we're both going to end up disagreeing on this point. So
yeah,
let's
of course.
move on.
Of course. Cause...
Tell me about Leo winning the Oscar.
Right. So the categories that were of somewhat importance. Mad Max won 6 Oscars, which was kind of impressive when you consider action, blockbustery, well, not even blockbustery, but like action movie. Like Mad Max came out of nowhere last summer. I don't think anyone was really expecting it to do as well as it did. So I was pleased to see it get 6 Oscars. Best visual effects was a surprise. Ex Machina took that one home, which I completely agree with, but that was competing against stuff like Star Wars.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is quite surprising.
So Ex Machina was up against Star Wars, The Martian, Mad Max for best visual effects, and I think, for me, I'm very happy it won, and it's because the effects that were used, 1, were good, but 2, they weren't too showy. It was almost subtle in a way. So best animated film was Inside Out. I don't know if you got around to seeing that.
I didn't see
it. It was the standout. Like it was the obvious winner. Now, best supporting actor is the only one I actually really cared about when I was watching. So to just go through who was nominated, we had Christian Bale for The Big Short, Tom Hardy for The Revenant, Mark Ruffalo for Spotlight, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, and Sylvester Stallone for Creed. Now, personally, I really wanted Stallone to win it for Creed. I mean, he won an Oscar for writing Rocky, I believe, in 1977. So this is supposedly, he said, Creed is going to be his last appearance as Rocky in a movie. So it would have been a real nice bookend if he could have won an Oscar for that performance. And he does give an Oscar-worthy performance in that movie. If he hadn't have got it, I maybe wouldn't have been happy, but I could have understood Tom Hardy getting it for The Revenant, because Tom Hardy was incredibly good in The Revenant. But Mark Rylance got it for Bridge of Spies, and I just do not understand that. It bothered me, and it was an upset.
Did you see Bridge of Spies?
No.
Yeah, neither did I.
Yeah. But, I mean, and so I was obviously monitoring the feedback on Twitter, and there was a few people that were in the camp of, oh, if you'd have seen Bridge of Spies, you'd see why he got it. He was very good, blah, blah, blah. But he could have been brilliant. It would not have stopped me from wanting Stallone to get it, because he was so good in Creed. Moving on. Best original song was Sam Smith's Writings on the Wall, which in my opinion is one of the worst Bond songs we've ever had.
Yeah, it's not great.
It was awful. Really did not like that at all. Best director, I really wanted George Miller to get it for Mad Max Fury Road. Unfortunately, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, so I apologise, Alejandro Inarritu for The Revenant. He also won Best Director Oscar last year for Birdman. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of his. I really wasn't a big fan of Birdman. I thought it was incredibly average. And The Revenant, while it is admittedly a better movie than Birdman, is still just average. So I wasn't a big fan of that result. Best Actress, Brie Larson for Room. I'm hoping to see that this week. I've heard nothing but good things about her in it. I loved what I've seen her in before, particularly Short Term 12. very happy for her to win that. Now, Best Actor, which is probably one of the more talked about results. Just to give you a rundown of who was nominated, we had Matt Damon for The Martian, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant, Fassbender for Steve Jobs, Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl, and Bryan Cranston for Trumbo. I would have been happy with Matt Damon, I would have been happy with Fassbender, I would have been happy with Bryan Cranston. Leonardo DiCaprio, who was everyone's favourite, I would not have been particularly happy for. And it's not because I don't feel like he deserves the Oscar, it's because I feel like he only got it this year because his competition wasn't particularly tough. His performance in The Revenant, yes, is very good, but Tom Hardy is better than Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie. And when you're not even the best actor in your movie, I don't think you should get an Oscar.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was like, I haven't seen all of them, but I thought Matt Damon's performance in The Martian was really good.
It was very good. It was very good. I haven't seen Steve Jobs, but I've just heard nothing but praise for Fassbender's performance, and I actually wasn't that interested in watching the movie until I heard how good Fassbender is supposedly in it, so I'm looking forward to watching that now. And Cranston, I just love. Also, you'll be interested to know Best Supporting Actress went to Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl, who, she got it for The Danish Girl, but she was Ava in Ex Machina, and in my head, I like to think that's why she got it. And then finally, the big one, Best Picture. I think no one was really expecting this. It went to Spotlight. I think a lot of people were expecting The Revenant, and I'm kind of pleased that it went to someone different. Haven't seen Spotlight, so I can't really comment. I'll add it to my watch list, and once it's out on Blu-ray or whatever, I'll get it watched.
Fair enough.
That's the Oscars now. Begin your whinge.
Right. The Oscars are a complete load of bullshit. They're absolutely a waste of everyone's time. They mean literally nothing. They're so pointless. Did you see the article that the guy released? I can't remember what his name was, but he's like a Croatian film director.
No, I didn't.
He did I think his film was nominated for like Best International Film or something.
Best Foreign Language, maybe? Yeah,
it could be that. But it was the first time that he was saying it's the first time his country's had a film in that category. So for him, it was really important. And he was like, this is a big deal. You know, it means a lot if we get it. Then they were doing some like Oscars, I don't know, I can't remember what it was called. It was called something, and it was like the guys that vote on the Oscars were like doing a big "this is how we do it" sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they pretty much all of them said that they hadn't watched all the films in the categories. They were voting on the films that they had seen, and he said, "Well, why? If you haven't seen the films in the category, you should just bow out of that vote and say, I can't judge that category because I haven't seen the 4 films in it, or 5.
I completely agree. I think you should not vote on something that you have not seen every single entry in the category.
Yeah, and he said that the majority of them were in that situation.
Yeah, I think that there is obviously a huge issue with the voters, which again comes back to this diversity problem as well. There is just such a huge issue with the attitudes of the voters, and I think the age and the background of them, because they generally tend to be in their 50s white men.
Yeah, see, that's insane. Like, how do they decide who the voters are?
I honestly don't know. I know that quite a few, that I think there's a lot of actors and directors that are also voters. I might be wrong, but I think Tarantino is one.
Oh, okay.
I honestly don't know what they use to, pick a voter or whatever, but it definitely needs looking at, and they really need to tighten up. If you haven't seen everything, you shouldn't be eligible to vote.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is. However, I would say that the Oscars still hold a worth because, one, marketing. Now that the Oscars are done, you'll find a lot of movies being sort of marketed as Oscar winner or Oscar nominated. Even actors go from, Tom Hardy to Oscar nominated Tom Hardy. For example, like anytime you see in a trailer, it'll have that prefix before his name now. And the reason why that happens is because in the general public consciousness, there is still a prestige around the Oscars, and they're still somewhat respected, even if they're not fully understood.
Yeah, but that's insane. So that doesn't mean the Oscars are good. That's just a marketing thing.
Yeah, but why do an award show for anything at the end of the day?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah,
I don't think they should do award shows.
Right, well, they're going to. They're not going to stop just because you don't think they should.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, right, that they're flawed, they have loads of issues, so clearly they either need to change the way they do them. Like, the ones I agree with are when the public vote for something, because you can't say this was the best film of this year.
I disagree
if you're
with that.
taking... Well, why? If you're taking the best film of the year is the film
Because
that everyone enjoyed.
When you let the public vote for something, you end up with someone like David Cameron in power. So I don't think the public should have the
Right,
right
well then
to
you're
say.
not getting a fair opinion on what the best film of the year was. You're getting a bunch of old men saying this was the best film, which they always seem to get fucking wrong.
I think opinions should come from an educated place, which is
No,
why
but
I
no,
think
it shouldn't. Not if they're using it for advertising to appeal to the public. You can't say this film was the best film of the year, so trust us, you should watch it.
Right.
That's insanity.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the voting should come from a place of education. So that's why it should be someone that has seen all of the entries. That's why they should be the ones that get to vote, because they are the ones that are in the best position to say, yeah, out of what was available, this was the best one to watch this year.
No, but that sounds so flawed. How can you say that?
Right,
it should come
it's a
from place of
movie. At
education?
the end of the day, it's always going to come down to opinion. So
Yeah.
all the Oscars does is it just gives you some sort of cultural barometer for
No, but it doesn't.
a group
That's what
of
I'm
50...
saying. A cultural barometer.
If you let
No,
me finish...
No, I'm not going to, because I'm in
Well,
charge of
I'm
editing
just
this
gonna
week, so I'm
talk.
doing that. Yeah, I'm doing that thing. So I'm going to cut out your audio on this section, Jack.
You totally
cut out Liam's
can.
audio.
You
So
totally
what I'm
can.
saying, Liam,
But
is
you're just
that
gonna
what
look
they
like
should
a
do
dick.
is to get a cultural barometer of people's opinions, they should ask the people. If you say that a cultural barometer is based on the opinion of however many 50-year-old white men, that's not a cultural barometer at all.
It's a cultural barometer of those that run Hollywood.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I don't care what the people who run Hollywood think.
If you let the people vote, it would end up with being something really popular like Star Wars,
Yep.
or you'd end up with just something fucking ridiculous. Just because a lot of people have seen something doesn't make it the best.
No, I agree, it doesn't. But it would be more of a cultural barometer, which is what you're saying they are.
No, I'm saying they're a cultural barometer for 50-year-old white men in Hollywood.
Right, but who gives a shit about that?
Clearly,
No,
enough
they don't. No,
people.
because like you said, people don't understand what the Oscars are. So they see the Oscar nominated and Oscar winning. Most people
Yeah.
don't watch the Oscars, Liam, at all.
No, they don't. But they see that and they understand that there is some sort of what's the word? Some sort of prestige to that.
Yeah, they don't. But they don't understand it. They just assume that.
Yeah, that's
Well, that's ridiculous. That's a flawed
people.
system.
And you want to give those people that just make those assumptions the power to choose what the
Yes,
best fit
I
thing
do,
is.
because like I said, most of them don't watch the Oscars. So the ones that would end up voting would probably be the ones that actually were like, I like movies.
Do you think?
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you, if they were like, you can vote for the best film of this year, I wouldn't.
Well, I'm pleased that it's not the public, but I do agree that the voters need a huge rethink.
But then, so what would your suggested solution be then?
You give it to people that actually care and people that are going to actually watch all of the options
But how
presented to them.
how would you decide that? How would you decide who cares?
Oh, you as they already do. You choose people in the industry. You go to certain film critics, and then you just start rolling it out from there. Maybe even let people from the public apply and have some sort of application process, and you could choose people from the public that you think would take it seriously.
Yep. The Oscars are bullshit. Pokemon! Liam, I don't know if you know, but the other day, I can't remember which day exactly, because, fuck researching for this, but it was Pokemon's 20th anniversary,
Ooh,
which is, that's pretty impressive, Liam. Pretty long
those pocket monsters have been around.
Hell yeah, they have. And with the 20th anniversary, we also got the announcement that the next instalment, which is Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, will be released this year,
Wow.
which
So
I am excited about.
not long to wait then.
Hell no. I imagine they'll be going up on pre-order sites like within the week.
And what's going to be new in Pokemon Sun and Moon?
I imagine new Pokemon.
Yeah, but each edition brings a new element to the game as well. So like Gold and Silver, you had the day and night cycles. The more recent ones, like X and Y, completely changed the view. Was that changed in that one?
X and Y went 3D.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, I imagine, so the thing with X and Y is they weren't full 3D. The battles were 3D and other elements were.
it was more 3D.
Yeah, no, but so what I'm saying is there was, like, I'm talking about the actual, like,
Just
flicking
walking
your slider
around.
on your yeah. So
Yeah.
flicking your slider on your 3DS to make things 3D doesn't affect most of Pokemon X and Y.
Oh, that's not what I was talking about.
Yeah, I know that. I know it wasn't. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because that's the big, so that's what the next ones will have, is full 3D support.
Oh, I have zero interest in that.
Fair enough, that's your opinion. I think it's better than, at the moment, it jumps in and out and it's very distracting.
Wait, no, I'm confused as to what you're talking
Right,
about.
you're talking about it being 3D as in it's in a 3D environment.
Yeah, and
I'm
you're talking about the
fact that
slider.
I'm talking about the actual 3D that the 3DS is named for.
Right, that no one ever uses after the first hour.
I disagree with you. I think you don't use it, and therefore you think people don't use it.
If anyone has a 3DS, please do tweet us or writing. Do you actually use it for the 3D?
Yeah,
or
I'd be genuinely interested.
Do you get a new game, you look at the 3D for maybe an hour, and you think, let's just turn that slider off now, because it's a bit annoying.
See, that's because you're like an old man, though. So for you, the 3D's like a whole new thing. You're scared by it.
Generally, I have no issues with 3D. I watch 3D movies a lot. I'm not one of these that's like, oh, 3D, I don't understand it. I just... The Nintendo 3DS doesn't do it well enough for me to want to, like, strain my head and get a headache after playing it for 2 hours.
See, it never gave me a headache. I've never understood that.
The older one did. The new 3DS is less of an issue, but it's still just a gimmick that I'm happy to turn off, and I will enjoy the game just as much without it.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that the 3D in the new one is going to be the main selling feature.
That's what I was asking you.
No, you said what's going to be different about the new one. I said they're probably going to have full 3D support.
Anything else that's going to be different?
I don't know, Liam, because they only just fucking announced it.
Alright, well, you could hypothesise.
No, but I have no idea. Because in, like, not even Alpha, in, like, the original Ruby and Sapphire, they added, like, the secret fort thing. You know, you could build your own little house.
Which
and,
just
like,
was abandoned.
It came back for Alpha... No, but that's what I'm saying. So that each one has its own specific thing.
Yeah.
But they change it. So it's... in Gold and Silver, you said the day and night cycle. But the other big thing they had was you could plant... not
seeds.
Berry bushes. Yeah, you could grow the acorns that would turn into Pokeballs.
Yeah.
Which you can't do in a lot of the other games.
Yeah.
So for each one, they have a specific...
Was Gold and Silver also the one that introduced breeding?
Yeah. No, could you breed in red and blue? I think you could breed in yellow.
Yeah, I thought with Red and Blue there was the daycare where you could train it, but there wasn't breeding, because not every Pokemon had a gender in Red and Blue.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I think it was Gold and Silver that did that.
Yeah, Gold and Silver, actually, I quite like.
Gold and Silver are really good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea that there's just 151 Pokemon, but I think Gold and Silver actually added quite a lot of value to the game, more so than any of the other sequels have done.
I don't know, I think a lot of people rate Ruby and Sapphire.
I was not very impressed with those.
Yeah, but you're a very negative person.
Yeah. Do you think Sun and Moon, maybe those titles, do you think maybe we'll see some space stuff going on?
Well, we see space stuff in a fair few of them.
But well, we see Pokemon from space. Have we ever actually gone to space?
We're not going to go to space in the new one, I don't think. But in is it Zed or is it Emerald? In one of them, you definitely travel to like an alternate dimension that's like in space sort of thing to catch one of the legendary Pokemon.
Okay. So, do you think Pokemon Sun and Moon will once again see a spike in 3DS sales?
Yep, 100%.
Are you going to buy them?
Yeah, 100%.
Which one? Sun or Moon?
I'll probably get Sun, I think.
Why is that?
Don't know, just that's the one that appeals to me when I first see the names.
When it was between Red and Blue, were you a Red person?
Yep, I was Red.
Of course you were.
Why?
Just seems like the sort of thing you'd go for.
Why?
Just Red seems like the sort of arrogant, oh, I'm the best, I'm going to be Red.
I think listeners, if you're going to tweet about the 3D thing, could you also tweet in and tell us which one of us comes across as the most arrogant and self-centered?
Yes.
I'm almost, like, seriously, I think it might be you.
Yeah, if listeners could come in and write and let us know which one of us sounds like they are more open-minded, and which one is just like, I want it my way and nothing else matters.
How many of my suggestions in Culture Swap have you come back and said were, like, decent?
I mean, when you give me a decent suggestion...
And when I tried all of yours, and I think I've only had one that I didn't like.
What was the one that I said was decent?
I think you have none, and I have one that I didn't like.
Yeah, but that's not my fault you're giving bad suggestions. Like, Kat suggested Nail Biter, and I thought that was a fantastic suggestion, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Still, listeners, like...
Maybe if you give better suggestions...
Let us know, because, you know... I think a lot of people enjoyed Neverwhere, and I think a lot of people enjoyed Attack on Titan.
I think one person enjoyed Neverwhere.
I think a lot of people enjoy it.
Yeah, again, let's not get into the Neil Gaiman thing. We've done that.
Yeah.
Culture Swap.
Culture Swap.
Swap my culture.
What did we watch this week, Liam?
We
watched... said it in the intro.
Yeah, but just in case, people skip. We watched Making a Murderer, the first 3 episodes. So, listeners... Gonna let you know now, there's going to be spoilers.
But only for the first 3 episodes.
Exactly. We have not yet watched beyond that. If this is a show that you are interested in, we probably won't spoil too much in the great scheme of things, because I have a feeling there's, another 8 episodes to go?
Yeah, there's probably a lot more twists ahead.
But if you do want to approach it completely fresh, stop listening, because we're going to be doing spoilers.
Yep.
Still with us? So, Making a Murderer. Now, before we get into the show itself, Jack, we both came to this suggestion, didn't we? Like, it wasn't one of us suggested it over the other person.
No, this is... Both of us came in blind.
Yeah, so what I'd like to know is, what had you heard about the show previously that had got your curiosity?
Well, the people that have watched it were like, it's incredible.
Yes, that is...
It was really built up.
Yeah, because I think it was released like towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got quite a lot of very good feedback.
Yeah. The first 3 episodes...
Yep.
They don't really live up to that feedback for me.
I would somewhat disagree.
Okay.
I think episode 1 and the first half of episode 2 don't. Less one, more the first half of episode 2.
Yeah,
but by
episode 1's actually quite good.
Yeah, by episode 3, I'm 100% on board with this show at the moment.
See, it's got... Episode 3 definitely gets better than episode 2.
Yeah. Let's go to the beginning, right? So let's start with episode 1, okay? So we're introduced to Stephen Avery, who is this blonde, bearded guy. These are all real people. It's a documentary, so we have to be careful with what we say. But he doesn't look like the sort of guy that I would particularly want to share a pint with, you know?
Well, no, yeah, he's definitely not our type of person.
No. And I don't think he's going to be listening to the podcast either. But
he might do.
Well, if
Unless
so...
he's in jail, because we're not sure how
we don't know how it ends, exactly. So the first episode is all about him being wrongfully accused for a rape.
Yes.
And he spends 18 years in prison, always contesting his innocence.
Yep.
And then new DNA evidence after 18 years completely rules him out and actually fingers the correct person who was at fault.
Yeah,
who committed the crime.
It's not even like the DNA evidence part of it's new, but it also gets revealed that they had lots of evidence that pointed at that guy anyway.
Yes, so and it does kind of explain a little bit about sort of just this guy standing in the community. He was familiar with the police, and I feel like the documentary very deliberately tries to get you to side with Stephen Avery, and maybe even sympathise with him. Particularly in the first episode, where admittedly they had the easier job of doing that.
Yeah.
Now, what surprised me at first when I was watching the first episode is it actually feels like quite a contained story, and you get to the end, and I actually thought, wait a second, is each episode going to be a different case? Because
it's a very cut and dry. That first episode is
exactly, and it covers a lot of ground as well. Like we do cover 18 years, and we do get a lot into the different police that were involved and the timeline of the events and how these stories can start to be questioned, particularly from the side of the police. Now, there is one thing that's revealed in episode 1, and as soon as it was revealed, I instantly, the defences went up, and I just couldn't get on Stephen Avery's side. And I still, we're 3 episodes in, and I still feel like the documentary is trying to make me sympathise with this guy, and I keep coming back to this thing that happened in episode 1.
Can I try and guess what it is?
You can indeed.
Is it the bit where he threw a cat onto a fire?
Yes.
Yep, 100%. That was the bit that I was like, okay, this guy's a dickhead.
Exactly. Anyway. Now, and here's the thing. Yes, it is a shame that he was wrongfully imprisoned for 18 years, and the guy that did it was allowed to commit other crimes during those 18 years. However, what I will say, I would rather someone be wrongfully imprisoned for 18 years that would throw a cat onto a fire than someone that's completely innocent, or even someone that's just had a couple of DUIs or breaking and entering, because someone that could throw a cat onto a fire clearly has no concept of life.
I don't think he threw the cat on the fire is the thing, because the actual conviction was party to animal cruelty.
I think he does say he did it though.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he does say he was just goofing. He said he was being pressured into doing it by his friends.
I don't think he should be put into jail for that.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying he should have been wrongfully accused. I'm saying
you're being very extreme.
I'm just saying if it was between him and a completely innocent guy, I'd go for the cat setting on fire person. But
I think the point you're trying to make, and I think you're making it in a slightly over the top way, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that the show tried to paint him as a good guy.
Yes.
But he's clearly not a good guy.
Yes, and also this cat on fire incident. I don't know if you felt like this, but I felt like the show glossed over it.
It's a very like.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he did this.
One of the interviews.
Yeah, there's a phone interview, and he's like, oh yeah, I was young, I was stupid, blah blah blah, and then done. I'm like, well, wait a second. Being young and stupid is no excuse for being a fucking animal.
No, it's not.
So that bothered me, and ever since that, I just can't get on his side, even though the show really feels like it's trying to manufacture my feelings.
I think it's only doing that really for episode 1 and sort of half of episode 2.
Yeah, I think this is where we disagree quite a lot on this show, though.
Okay, well, let's carry on. So, episode 1, that happens.
Yeah, and it felt very cut and dry. Episode 2, the first half gets very much into the lawsuit that he's trying to bring to the police to get some compensation for the 18 years he lost.
Yeah, and it does turn out that the police were like, it's huge. Like, when there's that interview specifically with the guy that did the drawing of him.
Yes.
And that guy is so dodgy.
Oh, that is ridiculous. That guy will just not listen to anyone.
Yeah,
he's so sure of himself.
Where they're like, yeah, no, but it's been proven that it wasn't him. And he's like, well, you know, I drew the face. And they're like, yeah, so you're saying that your drawing of his face is more important than DNA evidence. And he's like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, where did the DNA evidence come from? And you're like, what are you saying?
Yeah, that guy was just a complete twat.
Mm-hmm.
He's the sort of guy that you could imagine he'd go home with that picture and his mum would be like, oh, aren't you a good boy? Let's stick it on the fridge. And he'd just be super fucking proud of himself.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's ridiculous. But I must admit, I found the first half of episode 2 really boring. Like, I really struggled with it.
Oh yeah, it's not thrilling viewing.
No. But then something happens.
So the exciting bit is that... Well, exciting's the wrong word.
This is a point that you made to me earlier, where it's really hard... Because it's a documentary, it's hard to not approach it as a piece of entertainment. Because we were talking about how we were looking up the names of the people involved, but we didn't want to spoil the ending.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a horrible attitude to have. Like, it's not horrible, but it's the wrong attitude for what it is.
Definitely.
Because it's real people's lives. And it's a real girl that, you know, has died.
Exactly. But I also completely agree with you when you say what happens in episode 2 is exciting.
Yeah. It shouldn't be, but it is. But that's the way they've done it. It's very confusing how you're meant to feel.
Yes.
But yeah, so suddenly we discover that a girl goes missing.
Yes.
And this girl, the last person to see her was Stephen Avery. She came to she knew him from before because she came and photographed his cars.
Yeah, she works for Auto Trader magazine, I believe.
Yes, and he runs like a scrapyard.
Yes.
So that's the connection. He was the last person to see her before she went missing. And there's an interview with him where they're talking to him and they say, have the police contacted you about this? And he's like, yeah, they haven't said anything. I let them search my house. They didn't find anything.
Yeah. Can I also say there's a really chilling video that I think they put at the start of episode 2 where it's Teresa and it's her talking about if she were to die, she feels like she's achieved a lot in life. And it was just one of those things where it almost felt scripted. It was like it was too perfect of a clip to use considering what has happened.
Yeah.
It was really, really bizarre to see that.
Yeah.
And I've got to admit, that clip did make me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%.
So, episode 2, I believe, ends with him sort of being held accountable for the crime. Is that how it ends?
I think there's... Because I watched them all in a row, I can't really remember where they end properly.
Okay. Well, episode 3 really dives into it. So, in episode 3, the police definitely think it's him. There's DNA evidence in the car. There's DNA evidence in his living room, I believe it is.
Yes, yeah.
And it looks like it's pretty much he is up against a wall, definitely him, but he still was protesting his innocence.
Yes, and some of his family are on his side, his parents.
Yes.
And he's very much like, well, they're just trying to frame me.
Yeah, he takes what I would consider... It comes across as a very immature stance, where there's a scene where he's talking to a cop who's interrogating him, and the cop's just like, can you even hear yourself right now? Because Stephen Avery is just like, they've got it in for me. All of this is just them colluding against me.
Yeah.
And it does just sound like a child throwing a tantrum.
It does, yeah.
But he makes a point in episode 1 that I think they make a lot about it, where he says if he's guilty, he'll do the time and he'll confess to it. And the reason why he was so constantly fighting it, I'm getting myself confused now. The reason why in episode 1, where he was innocent, he was always fighting his innocence. And I think they even say if he'd have admitted he'd have done it, he'd have got out on parole or something.
Yeah, they won't give parole in that state to anyone that doesn't admit they've done the crime.
Exactly. So he self-imposed those 18 years to protest his innocence. So that plays into this now. That's going to be in the back of your mind when he is still protesting his innocence. And because it's happened to him already, there is that element of doubt that's going on. And then something happens in the middle of episode 3, which just really changes things.
Which is that his nephew...
Yes.
Who is... I can't remember his name.
Brendan?
Brendan, that's it. So Brendan basically says that he went to... He was over at the scrapyard for some reason.
He was on his way home from school.
He saw that there was mail in the mailbox.
Yep.
He heard screams.
Yep.
He took the mail and walked up to his uncle's door. He then knocks on the door 3 times. His uncle answers.
Sweaty.
Answers. He's very sweaty. That's a big point in one of the press interviews.
Yeah.
He then brings Brendan in, and they find... They phrase it very strangely, because they say they find, and I was like, well... Stephen didn't find, if that's the case.
Yes.
He knew it was there. But so they go into his bedroom, and what's the lady's name?
Teresa
Halbach.
Halbach.
Teresa Halbach is handcuffed to the bed, and then
naked.
Stephen encourages his nephew to rape her. Then they slit her throat, shoot her, and burn the body.
Yes.
Which is very dark. And
it is really grim.
Yeah. And that's the huge turning point, because suddenly you're like, oh, wow, okay, so he did do it.
Yeah. But then...
But then we find out that the police investigators, they have a series of interviews with Brendan, who is not... He's not mentally handicapped.
No, but he's not bright.
He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And they have an interview with him where they're trying to they have a piece of evidence. They haven't released to the public that she was shot.
In the head.
So they have an interview with him, and they say, if we can get him to say, we shot her in the head, that's the evidence. That's it. We've got him.
That corroborates their...
Yeah, because no one knows that.
Yeah.
But as hard as they try, and they try really hard, they're pushing it way too much. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to get him to get Brendan to say, we shot her in the head. And they're saying, well, what did you do? You did something specifically to the head. What happened to her head? And he's saying, well, he punched her.
And they're like, what else?
Yeah, and it's and then eventually they get so frustrated that one of the interviewers says, look, we know you shot her in the head, or who shot her.
Yeah,
and
who shot her in
the head?
He
did it.
Yeah.
And so up to that point, you've been like, oh, okay, well, if his nephew's saying he did it, he must have. But then it suddenly takes on a whole new light again, and you're like, oh, are they framing him again?
That, and then one of the lawyers makes a really good point, where it's like, if she had a slit throat, there would be blood DNA evidence in that room.
Yes, and there was no blood on the mattress.
Yes. So,
and also, there's the bit with Brendan as well, where his mum comes in.
Yeah.
And he's looking very upset, which you understand. He also doesn't understand that he's being arrested.
No.
It's all very you do feel bad for the 16-year-old kid.
Yeah, although he does also look a little bit like a psycho.
Yeah, well, a little bit. But but then he says to his mum, what's going to happen if his story's different to mine?
Yeah.
And she says, why? What did you say to them? And he's like, I don't know. They got in my head.
Yeah.
So clearly he doesn't really know what... It's very easy to believe that they've tricked him into saying this.
Oh, definitely. Or even coerced him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still comes across like they did something to her.
Yeah, there's definitely more than meets the eye here.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it feels like the documentary is presenting a bit of a him versus the police narrative.
Yeah.
So the two camps of thought from what we've seen so far is you'd either be in the camp of Stephen Avery definitely did it, or someone else did it, but the police are planting evidence or framing him or setting him up to be the one that did it. And they even give justification for why the police would do that, because I think he was suing them for $400,000. As soon as he got arrested for this, that settlement completely collapsed.
Yep.
And Stephen Avery just comes across like a right prick. There's a scene where he's talking to his parents and he's saying, I'm giving myself 2 weeks and then I'm going to kill myself.
Yes, yeah.
And they're like, well, don't do that. We're putting the business up for your bail. and we're going to get some money and try and get you a really good lawyer. And his response to that isn't like, oh, that's a big risk, or thank you, or anything. It's just like, why haven't you done that sooner? Get your asses in gear.
Yeah.
And he just comes across as just a real horrible person. But I don't think he did it. From what I've seen so far, I don't think he did it.
Really?
Yeah, I think, again, one of the reasons for this is I think we've got 8 episodes to go, and I think there's just so much more to this story. I think he maybe is involved to a degree, but as for him actually doing it, I don't think so. I think this whole her being tied up on a bed, or handcuffed on a bed and raped and stuff, that I think could be complete fiction from the 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Avery maybe had some part. He maybe agreed to take the car or something. Maybe. Like, I equally find it hard to believe that the police would plant his like blood evidence in a car.
Yeah, it's.
But I just think there's got to be a lot more.
The police are not good in this. They're doing something wrong. They're being very manipulative and trying to get this conviction.
Yes.
But it also wouldn't surprise me if it turns out he has done this.
So do you think he has at this point?
At this point, I think it is him.
Okay.
But because one of the things they say in, I think it's episode 3, is they're talking. I can't remember who it is they're interviewing, but they say if Stephen did it, I think it's his lawyer that was his lawyer in the first case.
Yeah.
And she says the Stephen I know wouldn't have done it.
Yes.
But the Stephen that came out of jail is not that Stephen. And she says that even if he did do it, she says she doesn't know if he did. But if he did, is it because he spent 18 years in jail?
Yeah, and she said you would understand why someone would have a lot of rage.
Yes, yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't her. Someone definitely says you could understand why he would have a lot of rage, but they also said...
Oh, maybe is it his aunt? It might be his aunt says that. Yeah.
His aunt says you would understand after 18 years why you would have a lot of rage, but you wouldn't necessarily turn that rage into killing someone. You would sue as he was doing.
Yeah.
Now,
but I don't know, it's very...
So the title, Making a Murderer, okay? How are you reading that at the moment?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm reading it as, by being put into jail and being messed up, they make him into a murderer.
Okay, and I think the other reading of that is the police literally framing someone to make them a murderer.
Yeah.
So, and it does go into that, would he have... If he did do it, then it asks the question, would he have done it if he hadn't have been imprisoned wrongfully for 18 years?
Yeah, see, because that's where I think the next 8 episodes or whatever are going to go.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking it might be him, and we might get another episode about, like, did he do it?
Yeah.
Which I assume will be a theme throughout. Like, I'm not saying they're going to suddenly just go, yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
But I imagine there'll be episodes of, like, what happened to him in prison.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard to say. And again, it's real people, and it's like a real thing that happened.
And even though we've seen like 3 hours of it now, it is really fascinating because it's still, there's still a lot unexplained.
Yeah, but that's the way with like real cases like this.
I know, but I would say this is even like you couldn't write this, I don't think, as like fiction. It's just so bizarre. There are so many elements to it.
You could write it.
Would you though?
See, that's the question. You could write it, because you could write anything.
I just don't think anyone would come up with something like for someone to be wrongfully accused twice is just so coincidental as well.
Well, no, it's not like you said. There's reason for the police to do it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And they also establish as well, like, because the first time it happens, the main person that sort of causes it to carry on is his cousin, who doesn't like him.
And is married to someone in the police force.
The sheriff, I think.
Yeah.
And, like, the sheriff got more involved than he should have.
Yeah.
And was pushing for Stephen to get the blame.
It is a really interesting show. Like I said, at this point, I am really on board. I'm looking forward to seeing the next episode. Yeah,
I'll admit, talking to you about it, I'm now more interested than I was earlier.
Yeah, like halfway through episode 2, I was like, this is a real chore. I'm struggling with this. And this is the thing, with shows like this, and also, quite recently I tried to watch Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Shows like that as well, where they throw a lot of information at you. I don't know if you get this, but after an hour, they make me tired.
Nope, I don't get that.
Yeah, my little brain is just like the information overload. I need a rest.
Little lizard Liam's brain.
Yeah, and it was getting like that halfway through episode 2. I was like, it's just too much going on. All these facts and figures and names.
Yeah,
I need
because
to see.
Episode 2 is very much like, here are the facts.
Yeah. By episode 3, though, I was just like, this is just way too interesting to make me sleepy. Like, all my brain is firing. I'm trying to, like, figure it out as we go along. And I'm like, who can we believe? Who can we not believe? It's just, it is crazy.
Yeah.
Did you listen to Serial last year?
Yes, I did.
Which was a podcast series that blew up, and again was a true crime story.
Yeah.
How do you think this compares to that?
Well, it's hard to say being only 3 episodes in.
That is true.
Because one of the things with Serial is that you don't get the definitive answer at the end.
No. There's a lot
that
of...
was very much like, I don't know, it would have been nice if, even though I know they couldn't give a definitive answer, it would have been nice if there was like...
Yeah, it did feel like they didn't resolve it very well.
Because at the end, like, the lady in Serial didn't even make a point of saying what she thought. She was like, there's all the facts.
Yeah.
See what you think.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of comparisons, right? Especially, so there's a thing they do a lot in Serial, they do a little bit in this, where they give that automated line where it says something like, this is a collect call from some jail, would you like to receive the charges? And once I heard that in this, that's what made me start thinking about Serial. And I was going to say to you, do you think there's an interest in these real-life cases that was maybe... I think there's always been an interest in real-life cases, but the success of Serial, do you think that has made something like Making a Murderer, like, helped its popularity, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because they say this has been, 10 years in the making, this documentary?
Yeah, but I think it's easy for it to have been in the making, but then Serial to come out and then say, oh, cool, this is a great time for us to release it.
Yeah.
Like, they might have been making it anyway, but then Serial has definitely made it more popular now than it would have been.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that this does have some sort of resolution by the end. Because I think it'd be frustrating to get through, 13 episodes? Yeah. And the end, they're just like, here's the facts, what do you think? So
yeah, which at this stage...
Yeah, at this stage, I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah. I think everyone's awful in this story. Just for different reasons. Yeah. Trust no one. So, what would you give this out of 5?
I think, at the moment, 3.5.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to accept that it might get better.
Yeah.
And I think it almost definitely will.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to sort of almost resentfully give it 3.5, because episode 3 was a solid 4. But episode 1 and 2 were like 3s.
Well, one's alright.
Yeah. So I think 3.5 for the first 3 episodes is fair, but I have real high hopes that it's just going to get better from here on out.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts on that?
No. So, Liam, what are we doing next time?
Next time, Jack, we are doing a movie from the early 80s called The Last American Virgin.
Okay.
Have you seen Porky's?
No.
Okay. I'd say, if you get time, try and get Porky's done as well as like a little bonus.
Why?
Because we could compare the two.
If I have time. I don't know if I have time.
Yeah. It's just like a bonus topic we could discuss if you get it done. If not,
alright,
no big deal. But Porky's is a very famous... it's sort of what's considered like the precursor to American Pie.
Yeah, I think I've heard of Porky's.
Yeah, it's a real easy watch. Like, it's not going to be like one of those ones where you're like, oh, this is really boring or anything. It's a real easy breezy comedy. So it wouldn't be a chore, and I think it's like 80 to 90 minutes long.
Okay.
But they both came out the same year, and they both tackle a very similar subject matter, but in very different ways.
Okay.
So can I also recommend that to our listeners to, if they want to also, as a little bonus, get that watched?
Yeah.
Alright. So listeners, our main film is going to be The Last American Virgin. If, however, you find yourself with a little bit of extra time, try and also get Porky's watched, and you'll find out why in the next episode.
Classic Liam, suggesting we do more than is required of us.
Our audience love it.
You're a dickhead.
Well.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Nerd on Nerd. I've been Jack Kempster.
And I've been Liam Underwood.
If you want to get in contact with us, you can tweet us at nerdonnerd, or you can email us at nerdonnerdpod@gmail.com. Also, we have a question that we want you guys to answer. So if you could get in contact with us on one of those platforms, that'd be great.
Your answer might be read out next time.
It might be, that's true. We might even be so generous as to read one of your answers, or multiple of them. What are your opinions on the Oscars? Because clearly, me and Liam do not agree. Oh, also, go on iTunes and just, if you have time, just click on the 5-star rating. It's fine. No one's going to judge you for giving us 5 stars. Least of all us.
We would really appreciate it. It would help us make more high quality and it would help us make more of this for you.
Bye.
Bye.